Hi, this is Anais and welcome to my channel. Please watch my This Is How I Do It video if you're not familiar with my videos, and if you already are and you've seen a few, thank you so much for stopping by my channel and liking and commenting and sharing and subscribing. I am an intuitive reader and I don't work with any timelines in my readings. I'm trying to keep things in the present moment or really appreciate time as a fluid dynamic. So whenever you're seeing this content will be the right time for you. And my readings are not based on astrology, and I don't use the tarot cards in the traditional way. Also, these are general readings. This particular reading, there will be no extended. This is going to be a pretty quick reading, and I'm only going to be using one deck, and that's Wisdom of the Oracle. So in terms of timelines and time information, when you're on a sacred journey, and you've been on one for a while, as I've been, it's been several years, you're aware of merging timelines. And each timeline that you're weaving into the singular timeline that we're coming into that becomes our union, we are discovering, tripping over, being gifted with information about who we are in our emotional bodies, our mental subtle bodies, our causal subtle bodies. And these are the information layers that are being transformed within us. And so every time we're coming into a new opportunity to do a major clearing of timeline for the collective, we have a sense of a big surge of energy coming. And we can choose to take advantage of that and really accelerate or quantum leap the clarity with which we are approaching our next timeline merge. And that's what's happening with this eclipse. It is the 17th. That's the date that I am recording this video. And I'm recording this because my own union has merged into a timeline that I think will be relevant for me personally before the end of the year. But the information and the recent waves of energy have been really relevant for the people in my soul group. And we have identified and found each other, and we are working and co-creating together. And so I want to bring that part of the sacred union dynamic to these readings, because I'm not only bringing the information and co-creative energies that I have garnered as an individual, but I'm also bringing those energies that are part of my entire soul group. So we're going to focus in this reading on the divine masculine and some of the deeply held internal fears or conditioning or beliefs, unloving beliefs about himself that he may be holding on to that are blocking his own union and blocking his own evolution. And when we're in sacred union, we take turns uplifting. And sometimes we uplift together, but sometimes the divine feminine is doing some deep inner work. And the divine masculine holds space and energy for her to do the uplift that she requires to stay in the frequency zone, to remain on the timeline where they will merge, where they will come into union. So it's very much a helping hands effort. So one of the things, as I do this reading, I'm going to be doing it in 3 parts. And the first part is looking at what the divine masculine may be bringing up to clear, and also what he's sensing, and what he is doing in terms of compare and contrast, where he may be unaware that he's in an unconscious competition with his divine feminine. And this next eclipse energy will clear a lot of that away for the divine masculines who are still comparing themselves to their divine feminines and the work that the feminines have done and where the feminines are in their healing and transformational journey. So while sometimes competition, healthy competition, is a wonderful thing, it can spur us on and inspire us, especially if we're working on a team. We want to make sure that we're doing well for the team. But when it gets down to individual competitiveness, there's really no place for that within Sacred Union, because Sacred Union is about conscious co-creation and about living life on the circle, whereas winning a competition or comparing and contrasting and asking the question, am I as good as that person, or am I better than that person, that's still part of the distorted masculine line energy. It's the energy of a spear, a bullet, a sword, an aggressive move of information and energy. And we can feel that in our lives. We know when we're in a dynamic where somebody is being competitive with us and they're running their competitive track in parallel, and they are not available to co-create with us because their egos haven't transformed enough to come out of that energy of competition. So let's begin. With all that being said, let's begin this quick reading for the Divine Masculine. So one of the energies that the Divine Masculine is fearful about is the Fates. This is the card that came out. He is worried that somehow he is not in control of his own destiny. He may have had multiple experiences in his life where his life has been upended by forces he felt were absolutely beyond his control, and they were not kind and they were not loving, and they felt very oppositional to him and what he knew he was capable of and what he would have loved to understand how to co-create. Now, when he may have been in a dynamic where he had a lot of power and energy for manifestation, which is about service to self. And when we're in the dynamic of service to self and we're manifesting for ourselves, and we're not yet aware of what we need to do with our energies to bring them into a co-creation cycle, we can feel like we are being knocked down by the fates. We can feel like destiny is working against us. So this is an energy that the Divine Masculine may be experiencing right now, and that he's going to be having to dance with during the eclipse energies. Then next out, we have Orphaned. And this card expresses the soul wound of feeling like I have no family. I'm in this world, this life, all by myself. No one is really with me. I've had to learn how to care for myself entirely. I haven't been able to depend on anyone. And so my basic bonds of trusting intimacy really haven't developed yet because I've been orphaned. So the dynamic here for the Divine Masculine is, if he's carrying this wound of feeling that he's been orphaned, that he's like an orphan, his intimate relationships with his Divine Feminine, whatever gender, are going to be fraught with anxiety, because he will always be carrying the fear that if he dares to give himself fully to the dynamic, he's going to be orphaned and or abandoned again. And this is not a soul wound that his physical body, that his heart, that his emotional body, that his mental body would be able to recover from. So he's dealing with that energy right now in terms of what may come up to transform and transmute during the eclipse energies. Next, we have out not for you. And so this relates to the divine masculine's fears that he will be working through in the next few waves of energy of the fates having determined his future or his actions or what he will experience. And because of feeling orphaned by the fates have left him feeling in an orphaned emotional space, he's carrying the subconscious message that repeats and repeats that emotional fulfillment as well as abundance and a sense of success and being a sovereign being, fully co-creating his experience, that this is not for him. So this is part of what will be coming up post-eclipse energies for the divine masculine. Now, next out, because of the waves of energy that we've been going through, and because of the continuing inner work that his sacred union counterpart is doing, the divine feminine, he's begun to sense a change in the wind. And he's not sure if he can trust it, but he's aware of it. And it is bringing him a sense of excitement, but it's also bringing him additional anxiety, because what if he's to be disappointed again? He's not sure that he would be able to navigate another major disappointment in love or in his achieving abundance and interdependence and coming into balance within himself and in union. He's not sure that he could manage another major disappointment. So this, as much as it generates anxiety, it's also generating a sense of, well, something else might be possible. So here's where the divine masculine is going to have to do quite a bit more work, because the fates are not going to decide what this change in the wind means. He's going to need to decide for himself, through his connection with Source, what this change in the wind means as far as his connection to his divine feminine. Next out, I asked, what's one of the major fears that the divine masculine is still hanging on to, and that has to relate with the old paradigm templates of he-she relationships? And the message from this card is by the book. So he doesn't want to be part of a herd. As a masculine, he wants his individuality to shine, and he doesn't want to necessarily do things by the book, because he's tried doing things by the book in his life and they haven't worked for him. They haven't brought him all of what he would like to experience. So he's worried that he will be somehow positioned to lose his individuality and his freedom, and to have to be in a he-she relationship, a co-creative relationship, by a book he himself has not written, or that she has not written. So this is a number 11 card, and they are going to work on this together, but this is also one of his fears, which has to do with giving up his independence and his freedom to fall in line. And so he hasn't yet worked out that once he's aligned with Source and he's co-creating his life and his reality and his relationship with his divine counterpart, he's no longer living life on the line, but he has no idea what it feels like to live life on the circle of conscious co-creation. So this is a real moment of creative tension for the divine masculine, and it is a really significant subconscious or unconscious fear, which does lead to difficulties in making commitments and remaining committed not only to his own journey, but remaining committed to his mission and remaining committed to the mysterious flows and riding the waves of co-creation with his divine counterpart. So another source of anxiety for the divine masculine that he is becoming aware of, and that he is aware of he's going to need to choose to work it through. And when he makes that choice, it will be a choice he makes for himself. It will not be a choice that is stamped on him by the culture or stamped on him by a feminine energy. He will be making that decision for himself in his own time. All right, the next out, this was interesting. This is the card that is, the message is blissed. I don't use the word bliss or blessed. I'm sorry, I don't use the word blessed. I substitute the word blissed because if you look at the spelling in terms of spell casting language, this actually says be blessed. And this was pointed out to me by my friend Anastasia. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's absolutely right. And in some of the cultures in which I have my toes embedded, very religious, fundamental people will not recognize that they're co-creating with Source, with the planet, with their own intentionality, and they feel that they are in a position of being blessed or blessed. And they'll say this all the time, I'm blessed, or I'm blessed by the best, which carries a wonderful intention, and yet they haven't become aware of every time they say those words, they are agreeing to be less. So I always encourage people to substitute the word blissed. I'm blissed. I'm blissed by the best. Not everyone's going to do it, but anyway, back to the card. It is a number 22, and so we have the 11 card here by the book, and we have then the master number 22 card. And what this relates to is that the divine masculine, I asked the question, what does he fear, if anything, about his divine feminine? Where does he hold fear around who she is, or the he-she relationship that they're on the verge of co-creating as they come into union? And this card came out. Now, 11 and a 22, so in this card, the energy of their union has been doubled, which is the purpose of union, so that they become a scalar wave co-creative couple. But in this card, the subconscious message that he's carrying is still one of not being equal to her. And he has to work that out in understanding his place in co-creation. And because her energy comes first, in terms of waves of energy emanating from Source, it does not mean that she is more than he is. It's a very, very tricky dynamic. And so for many divine masculines, they're still carrying a sense of she's the one who determines what happens by the book. This is also a reference to the Akashic Records, and if he hasn't cleaned up some of his old standing contracts, oaths, and curses, then he's going to be living by the Akashic Record books in which he was out of alignment with Source and out of alignment with his own soul sovereignty. But here, there's a sense of competition, and that he's striving to have to be as blessed or belist as she is, and that the message here that he's going to want to take in is, am I in some unconscious sense of competition with the divine feminine? And if so, how do I heal that? Because when we live life on the circle, we are being our best because it benefits us and all of life. We are not being our best or doing our best for reward or recognition or getting that, blue ribbon stamp of approval that we have in some way become better than someone else. This is a very difficult journey, and it's an individual journey for each of the divine masculines to find out what's going on with them with regard to their subconscious and their unconscious minds as they're coming into conscious co-creation. Am I in competition with my feminine? How does that hurt us? How does that hurt me? How does that hurt our union? So in terms of the beginning stages of struggle coming out of the eclipse energies as we move towards the Lion's Gate, this is going to be one of the issues that the divine masculine, who is no longer functioning as the distorted masculine, will be attending to. All right, now as the divine masculine is becoming more conscious of his journey and allowing himself to be more connected to his intuition and more grounded in his connection to source energy, here's what comes out next. Okay, I had to go attend to some background noise. Hopefully that's fine now. So what comes out next there's a journey that the divine masculine is going to be going through directly after and through the eclipse energies are coming into the Lion's Gate and the next wave of physical union. And he's already begun laying his foundation for the union and his part in the union. And the message on this card is that this building blocks, that the foundation has been laid and that it's solid and it's secure, because the energy in the building blocks is energy, co-creative energy that is aligned with source. And it includes the blending, the essence of the building blocks and the form of the building blocks is a joint effort that's happening already in union at the higher levels of the union, in which the energetic and subtle bodies have already merged. And so that is the foundation that has been built. And he is aware of that. And he's feeling that the foundation is built, and now because of that, the energy is building and there's momentum, which he is feeling as time to go. So he may be feeling a little bit like a horse chomping at the bit. He feels ready on the conscious levels, and he's wondering where his divine feminine is and why is he still waiting for her. Now this is interesting because the message here is it's time to go, but for me this path that the divine feminine is in the lead and he's looking at her this is the newly merged timeline. And she is creating this timeline as she moves forward through dimensional realities and through space, time, and distance. And she knows it's time to go, and she's going. But this work, this building of this pathway of the merged timeline has to happen in alignment with the building blocks that they've been working on together. So in a way, you could turn this card sideways and look at this building blocks as a path that she has been building on. And we could even go like this and have the mirror reflection that the building blocks they have built together for the foundation are now forming the pathway that she's able to forge using her starfire essence to bring into manifestation and co-creation. And once that's happened, once those timelines have merged and they come into union, then the divine masculine will realize that they have come into a beautiful foundation for exchanging their gifts. And that will be a next flow of movement in the co-creative union experience. He's bringing his gifts, she's bringing her gifts, and they're coming into exchanging their gifts without a sense of restraint or competition, that one person's gifts is better than another. Now then I asked what it is that the divine masculine is longing for or seeking from his sacred union counterpart, the divine feminine. And this came out, which is yin, which is he really wants to be able to feel her magnetic energy contribution to what they are co-creating together. He really wants to be able to feel her when she's engaged in moving forward and merging the timeline that they're going to come onto together. Now, there may be times when the divine feminine is forging this ahead and she may not be in connection with her divine masculine, but neither is she in separation. And so he is beginning to learn to feel on the energetic level where she is and where is she in their subtle bodies, because if he can't connect with her in a physical environment in the 3D, he needs to be able to tap back in and understand that her magnetic energy, which is what the word yin implies, magnetic energy, that he can feel this in the dynamic. And then once he reaches the place where he can feel all of this happening in the dynamic, then he becomes poised and he's able to feel his balance in the union, in the relationship, and on this foundation, this pillar that is elevating them in the sacred union. This is a firmly built structure that has now begun to elevate them through all the dimensional expressions they need to embed themselves in and broadcast through, so that they are both in alignment with their sacred divine blueprint, their original blueprint from source, as a sacred union pair. Then next we have out, so once the divine masculine has found that he's poised and he's ready to go and he can feel his divine feminine counterpart, then he is in a space of being flexible and being able to respond not only to his own flows as he's surfing the wave, but he has the flexibility to wait, to move forward, to attend to his part of the dynamic with a sense of graceful flexibility and poise. And he is supporting the divine feminine in that as well. Then next out comes the Imagine card, which is the divine masculine is actually beginning to imagine that he is in a beautiful dynamic with this counterpart. He's beginning to imagine that he's no longer a victim of the fates or the cultural overlays that are part of the power dynamic, the dominant patriarchal masculine, that constrains males as well as it constrains females. He's beginning to feel that his sacred imagination has once again become his own. It's been freed, and he is gently doing the moves that he needs to do to release his sacred imagination from being hijacked by patriarchal male templates, and his imagination, his sacred imagination, is being activated once again by source. And as that is happening, he's experiencing a sense of peace that he feels within, that is emanating in him and through him. and he knows he can't account for it. That this is a combined, celebratory, stable piece that is part of being in connection with Source and also with his divine feminine. So his fears about being orphaned are being alleviated and transmuted. The message not for you is being alleviated and transmuted. And he's understanding now what the change in the wind has meant. That it is leading him forward and through his own sacred imagination and to a really glorious sense of inner peace and inner calm. And that means that he's able now to allow his etheric body to inform his physical body that the birth of his new self as divine masculine is being embodied, and he just has to receive it and breathe. That it's all happening. He just has to receive it and breathe. And he can do this now because he's arrived in a place of peace and more trust in recognizing that the path of being aligned with Source and living life on the circle of conscious co-creation is not a place where he can even bring any fear. You can't even hold on to any fear when you reach this frequency, this vibration. It's no longer possible to harbor fear. And you become so self-aware, and anytime you feel a shift in your vibration or your frequency, you immediately engage the yes process. And sometimes we're able to just do that with a conscious breath. And so, being able to breathe and release our fears and stay in the yes process simply by being present with ourselves and really being present to the connection we have with Source and Gaia and to the connection that we have with our divine feminine brings us absolutely to the 0 point energy, this path that the divine feminine is forging of the here and now. And so the time to go becomes the new time wave. We're no longer operating by the clock. We're no longer operating by the book. We are operating by Source impulse, moment to moment, and we're feeling it as an embodied rhythm that it's time to go. And it's time to go forward on this path of union and ascension. And we're doing it, and the divine masculine is now in a sense of relaxed freedom and interdependence. He no longer feels constrained or like he's going to lose a part of himself that is a mark of his individuality. He recognizes that all of those things are coming out of separation and becoming one whole, unified, embodied experience. And he's poised now. We go back to that beautiful card of poised. He is poised in the present moment between the past and the future. And he's poised there, and he has the opportunity to experience all the information in his own Akashic record. And it helps him to remain poised because he knows that he can find the information if any energies of separation are beginning to show within his sacred union dynamic. And he can attend to them easily and gracefully and having fun and being playful about it. So this is where we are all going, but this is part of the journey that the divine masculine will be making as his contribution to the union, coming through the eclipse energy, and as we're coming into that next merging of union and timelines that's happening with the next Lionsgate and beyond in the end of 2019. Okay, so here's where the union will be moving through this eclipse power. We have the divine feminine energy coming out. Really, she came out as the first card for this part of the reading. And she's happy. She's in her happy place. She is really, through being connected with higher source and her own galactic, metagalactic, and oversoul information, and being firmly anchored and expressing her union energies within her soul group. She is happy, happy, happy. This key here has been, this portal has been opened, and she has access to go in and out of it whenever she chooses. And here are the releasing energies that she's coming out of this eclipse with, because she is really in a place of balance and receptivity. She's in her yin magnetic receptive space, and she is letting go of emotions and still any patterning that is not part of her divine blueprint. Happy, happy. And then I ask the question, what will the divine masculine become aware of as he comes into more of his own yes process and into sacred union with his divine feminine, which happens in waves and phases and stages and individual divinely sparked moments of coming out of separation. And here we have the card regeneration that came out as the answer. He is going to be experiencing a profound sense of regeneration in his physical body, his emotional body, his mental body, his causal body, his celestial body. And as he's in this process of regeneration, his own 7 chakra system will be transforming into the 12 chakra system, which is part of how we function as we're coming into 5D and above frequencies. And now we're broadcasting. We're broadcasting regeneration. We're broadcasting happy, happy. We're broadcasting higher power, which then allows and encourages and opens the divine masculine to finally experiencing his life in the realm of being aligned with source and his divine feminine. He will find his own inner treasure island. His own inner treasure island. So once again, he will be transitioning from feeling orphaned perhaps for most of his entire life, and feeling that this experience of having a more connected and clear emanation of his own divine blueprint, he's found his treasure island. He's found it, and he's going to nurture it, and he's experiencing this unbelievable full ocean of unconditional love that has moved these energies out of his divine blueprint. Now, once he's come into Treasure Island in himself, he's able to clearly see and perceive and honor and respect and cherish himself, and also his role as a soulmate in the soul group union energy, and his role as a monadic whole divine masculine who is living his divine blueprint fully in his sovereignty and living it as a scalar wave co-creation experience with his divine feminine. And that enables both of them to go the distance, so that they are now empowered and they're doing their mission work, and they're regenerating themselves when and as they need to. And in this, they come together to serve their soul group and the entire human collective, the tribe. And so this is another wave of moving through and finding the new divine blueprints for ascension, and doing the work of dissolving and dismantling and deconstructing any and all blueprints and templates which are not in alignment with source, and which therefore create miasms and other distortions that we experience as separation and pain. Okay, so that is the reading for the Divine Masculine, coming through the portals and openings that will be part of the post-eclipse energies. So it's a simple reading today. It's fairly short, and it's just one deck. And so I hope that if it's resonated for you as a cross-watcher, Divine Feminine and Divine Masculines who may be watching this, I hope that it's been helpful in helping you recognize what's going on within you. Because when we're on this sacred union journey and we become sparked by the journey, the information is not always immediately conscious. And so in doing intuitive card reading, or doing group work, or doing retreats or workshops, we're opening ourselves to receiving the ability to know direct experience confirmation of the information that is pulsing through us and sparking inside of us. So I hope this has happened a little bit for you, and it will encourage you to engage your own yes process. And if you'd like to know more about the yes process, just drop me an email. I'll be happy to add you to my mailing list, and then you'll know all the things that I'm offering and our soul group is offering to the collective. We do have a Golden Flow event, live event happening mid-August, and that's open to anyone who's done a significant amount of inner work and who is aware that they're on a sacred union journey. And then please do check out our Shopify shop and our website, and explore the energy and frequency embedded healing codes that we have in our source solutions. They're nominally priced, so most people can afford them, and they're really good for quite some time unless you're using them in an emergency. And what I would suggest also is we are still clearing contracts that were made in subconscious and unconscious states where we didn't know what we were agreeing to. We're also still clearing oaths and curses that we have been on the giver and receiving end, and those energies are blocking our union. So I will probably post a link to an essence that I think would be appropriate for the Divine Masculine in alignment with this reading, and it will probably be the essence of connection, because there's so many neural pathways of connection that he's going to need support with as he's opening up and allowing source information and his divine original blueprint to follow those connective paths and bring him more and more into a sense of his own wholeness and sovereignty. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully this has been valuable for you, and so please do like, share, love your comments, and subscribe.